Here we go. Tossie Sickles was lying on the great four-poster bed under the curtain canopy. She had not disturbed the embroidered counterpane. She had not disturbed the carefully folded ends of the curtains, whose fringes, matching the valance that touched the floor, lay on the outer edges of the two pillows. This bed had come from their ancestral home on the Quantocks. William of Orange had been one of those who had slept under that canopy. Perhaps that wise and indulgent ruler had been, in his hour, as careful as Tossie herself not to disturb those elegantly folded fringes. Mr. Decker said as he was all to clear out and leave, I with air and none body else, was what Sam heard Sally Jones saying as she opened the door. Sally's blue eyes were flashing with indignation on behalf of her friend, but standing immovably before her, not budging an inch, was, or had been until Sam entered, the slender and virginal figure of Lily Rogers. Lily's melancholy gusto for romantic situations, her almost maniacal penchant for seduced maidens, as long as their seducers belonged to the class known as gentlefolk, were emotions that had been satisfied this evening as they had never been satisfied in all Lily's conscious life. The fact that the general gossip of the town pointed its finger at Mr. Barter as the villain in the case was a coincidence that heightened Lily's excitement to fever pitch. She herself had kissed more than once by the desolate East Anglican, and it had been much more the promiscuity of Louis, who also liked him, than any ice-cold resistance in herself that had kept her relations with this gentleman as much a discreet point. Sam was not by any means a virtuoso in the delicate entanglements of female quarrels, so that all he did at that moment was to continue holding the door while wide open, as he took for granted that Lily would retire. But Lily, who had known a young Master Sam a good many years, and was several years older than he was, showed no sign of retiring. "Penny thought I'd better come up to see," she began. But Sam cut her short. "My father told me to amuse those young ladies till he could leave the table," he said. "I wish you'd tell Penny, Lily, not to forget those boxes of sweets that I brought for dessert. Please run down now and tell her, there's a good girl." Lily cast a final gloating look at the youthful sufferer stretched out on William III's bed, a look that was replied to by a glare of fury from the blubbered face and brown eyes of Tossie. She then gave her graceful head a delicate little toss and went off. Sam came straight over and sat down on the edge of the bed, motioning to Sally to subside into a steady Louis Quatorze chair, whose gilded arms and embroidered roses had hitherto kept the slum-born niece of number 2 at a respectful distance. "Don't you cry about it, little girl," he said tenderly, laying his hand on one of the plump knees of the prostrate victim of East Anglican incontinence. "Dad'll be up to see you soon, won't he, Sally? As long as I've known Dad's ways, and that's as long as I've known the difference between girls and boys, I've never known him not to make everything easy for anyone who's in trouble. I'd be shamed to look ye in the face, Mr. Decker, and that's the truth and Sal to know it. I never thought 'twould come out about me at choir supper making a reproach to all present and the singing and speeching scarce begun at all. I never thought 'twould be like it be or I never would." And the corner of Tossie's mouth dropped into the thread of another burst of crying. "'Twere Lily would upset she, Master Sam," threw in Sally spitefully. Her had stopped yellering and were high sweet asleep when Penny and Lily came in. "Emma Sly sent them all away and told I to go and tell the master, but Lily Rogers, she came back again soon as Emma's back was turned, and 'twas more than Toss could hide, being as she be, to see thick white-faced ninny staring at her out of her girl-owl's eyes. "Don't you cry, kid," said Sam, quietly patting the plump hands which were now folded in the very style of one of gauze his ambiguous innocence. Don't cry, that's a brave girl. Dad'll do everything for you. And what's more, he'll not let Miss Fell or Miss Drew or Lily Rogers or anyone else say one single nasty thing about you. Toss to say what worries she wore not any think, be less your dad want she to tell on the gent she's kept company with. Be I right, Tossie, or bain't I right? Tossie snatched her hands away from under Sam's and covered her face. I won't tell a thing. Not if I get to prison for it. I won't. The girl flung out these words so passionately that both Sam and Sally looked nervously at the door. That's all right, little one, said the former soothingly. Dad doesn't believe in telling tales. He ain't so rich as they all say he be. He bain't looking after at all. He ain't got no girl to be nice to, he, 'cept me. And now he'll have no one. Never no more. When I be in workhouse. The bitter crying that had disturbed Sam's peace in the room below began again now, under those white, short, plump fingers. Listen, Tossie Stickles, listen to what I say, quoth Sam sternly. Take your hand from your face and stop that now. Do you hear? Stop that now and listen to me. Sally Jones was so astonished at this unexpected tone of severity that she found the courage to lay her sticky fingers at the gilded arms of her Louis Quatorze chair as she leaned forward. Tossie permitted Sam to remove her hands from her face and swallowed down her sobs. That's right, he said. Now listen. No one's going to put you in the workhouse. No one's going to separate you from your friend. Dad's not one for forcing people to marry each other when they don't want to now, though. You must get that clearly into your head. He'll ask Miss Crow to keep you as you are. You can go to the hospital here when your time comes, and then we'll see what's to be done. I don't want to go to the hospital, wailed Tossie, beginning to cry again. Well, you don't have to. Yet, child, Sam responded with something like a faint smile. You're going to be all right anyhow. No one's going to say a word. And you must go on being a good, hard-working girl in Miss Crow's like you've always been. What will I tell Auntie out at Greylands? Murmured the figure on the big bed. She needn't tell her Auntie nothing, sir, need she? Threw in the considerate Sally. But the problem of Auntie out in the Greylands was at that moment a little too complicated for Sam's wits. Plenty of time, Tossie, plenty of time for all such manners, was all he could say. And now I must go down, and Sally shall stay with you. You feel much better now, don't you? He rose to his feet and turned to the girl in the gilded chair. You can lock the door if you like, Sally, and not open it till my father comes up. Goodbye, Tossie. Everything's going to be all right. It was 9 o'clock when Sam went back to the museum, and he found the company's ground much more lively than it was when he left the scene. The extreme heat of the room, the gathering of so many candles, the mingling of so many steamy and unctuous smells, the loud boisterousness of the voices, all combined to make him feel a little sick to his stomach. Instead of returning, therefore, to Crummie's side, he went straight up to his father. I hate to desert you, Dad, he whispered, but I must get out for a breath of air. I left Sally to look after Tossie and told her to lock the door till you came. They've been bullying her already. It's that chap Barter, I suppose. But it's only beginning, I don't know. She's a nice little thing, but very simple. Very terribly simple. But he's a fairly decent chap. He won't marry her, of course, but he'll fork up. He won't run away. You do look white, me boy, responded Matt Decker with much concern. Here, drink a drop of this. Emma's rescued it for me from old Weatherwax. This beer and this port together are good enough to upset anyone. This is my father's stuff. And he handed his son a wine glass of richly fragrant, neat brandy. Sam drank off about half of what his father had offered him. Finish it yourself, Dad, he murmured affectionately. It'll be our loving cup. I'll go out for a bit now. It'll be all right. Louie and Lily are going to stay to help Penny, aren't they? Yes, I thought so. Well, I'll be back when the decks are clear, Dad. Don't worry. He left the room without a thought of Crummie. In his haste to escape, he did not give her so much as a nod. The girl watched him through the half-open door, putting on his overcoat. Her soft cheeks were tightly drawn, her white teeth were biting her underlip. Her large eyes were wild and dry and miserable. This was the end of her chance that he might take her home. Where was he going? On what errand had his father sent him? She had watched their conversation just now and had not missed their affectionate look when they pledged each other in the same cup. Probably Matt Decker had sent him to fetch the doctor to see Tossie Stickles. Crummy had heard of Tossie's fainting fit. Indeed, she had listened on all sides to many unsympathetic explanations of that event. And when was their own Sally? She must be upstairs with the sick girl. Oh, what a difficult world it was. What a world of harsh, stabbing, scraping, jarring events. When everything could be so lovely. When Sam opened the front door without a thought of his supper companion and walked quietly and quickly down the moonlit drive, not a breath of air was stirring. Delicate fragrance rose and sank around him as they had been aroused, and as if they had been suppressed by their own mysterious volition. There were 2 big lilac bushes and several clumps of white peonies on the edge of the dew-wet grass. And near the drive gate was an ancient red-blossomed hawthorn tree. There must have been scents from all these upon the air, but what Sam felt in his troubled fancy was that the tormented body of his Redeemer himself, bathed, its nakedness in its blood, by the waves of the cool moonlight, was diffusing the almost mortal sweetness upon the atmosphere of the night. Once out in the road, the fancy of his took it to itself a more intimate aspect. He began to feel as if this tremendous shadow over Glastonbury of the martyred God-man was calling upon him to fill some purpose, to make some decision. He crossed the road to the base of that high wall of the Abbey grounds, over which hung the tall elm trees that from his earliest childhood had been associated with certain turning points in his life. He turned to the left now, and walking sometimes in the roadway and sometimes on the uneven grass under the wall, he followed the outskirts of Miss Drew's garden until he reached the entrance to Abbey House. In his mind he thought now, I'll go as far as Tith Barn and then swing around to the right, where there are those open fields at the end of the east side of Beerland. But just at this point he heard several footsteps and voices behind him, and he lessened his pace to let those unknown persons pass. While so large a group of this respectable proletariat of Glastonbury was listening to the rumbling bass tones of Isaac Weatherwax, John Crow was making love to Mary Crow in his snug room in Northland Street. Panting hard and fast, an interval of his absorbed and vicious lovemaking, while the girl, with disheveled hair and ruptured garments, leaned back with closed eyes in his leather armchair, John Crow opened the window and gazed out over the water meadows. How he did drink up those damp odors of water mint and watercress, of reed beds and mossy hatches, of dew-soaked grasses and river mud. The moonlight was flooding everything that night, but it seemed to irradiate with some special kind of benediction those vast level fields where the ancient lake village had been, and which John had crossed that very morning with little Nellie Morgan at his heels. By leaning far out of his window, he could just make out a little red light to the north of the lake village field, which may well have been shown from the upper window of Backwater Hut, where at this very second Abel Twig, seated on his iron bed, was pulling off his trousers. Whether it came from Abel's bedroom or not, where there was something in the sight of that little red light, shining across the dew-soaked, moonlit expanse of fields and ditches, that thrilled John with a keen ecstasy. He turned to give a swift glance at the girl behind him, and a look on her figure as he rested there, her dark eyelashes lying softly on her white cheeks, her long legs outstretched from beneath her disarranged and disordered clothes, her slender arms raised up and her sturdy, competent fingers clasped behind her dusky head, increased the sensation of predatory rapture. I won't compete with anyone, he thought. I won't fight these monkish phantasms with material weapons. I'll pillage the place with my wits. I'll snatch the beauty of their pastures from them while I lay bare their hocus-pocus. My girl is enough for me, Her body is more delicious than all their fancies. I'll drain up the magic of the spring night and of every night as it stinks down of these pollards and poplars and reedy ditches. But I'll fight these dead saints with a devilish cunning beyond anything they'll have ever encountered. I'll ransack the beauty of their moons and their marshes. I'll drink it up. I'll drain it to the dregs. I'll penetrate all their secrets too. I'll twist like a serpent into their deepest souls. I'll become what they are, and then I'll betray them. And all the while I'll make love to Mary. Mary belongs to me. She belongs to me as much as my hazel stick belongs to me. Oh, how sweet she looks over there at this moment. Those enchanting knees are my girl's. Those maddeningly sweet ankles are my girl's ankles. That white neck is my girl's neck. From head to foot my girl belongs to me. I've even eaten her up tonight. I've eaten her up just as I've drunk up this moonlight floating over Lake Village Field. Well, okay. I'll see you next time in Glastonbury.